1580, and we don't black down.
First things first.
First things first, it's the DU General, Money B. I'ma put you up on the schedule, 6 to 9, 8 weekdays, not too unsettling. Let's go. We got a lot to talk about, so much to pedal through. Unapologetically progressive. Tune to KBLA 1580 to get the mess. We're your ancestors' favorite radio station. First black on talk radio, left side of the nation. Me and Dominique DiPrima go way back. Smiley making sure the station stays black. Discussing all the issues in our community. We're hosted black and brown and others find unity. So let's talk about it. Maybe we can improve it. Digital underground, always down with the move. So we tune in. The first things first with the queen of black talk radio, Dominique DiPrima. Go sis.
First things first.
KBLA Talk 1580. Good morning and God bless. I'm Dominique DiPrima. The show is called First Things First, and my very first thing today and every day, giving thanks, giving praises, asking for blessings from God, asking for the blessings of the ancestors and the elders, and let's go. I'm so excited. My friend and I can't say colleague because I'm not a judge, is in the studio with her friend and now colleague, and you'll hear more about that in just a moment. This is going to be an amazing morning. I can tell you right now because of the two faces I am staring at as we speak. But look, it's a Wednesday, so this is how we do things around here on a Wednesday. Hour one, we look local, what's happening in the left coast side of town. Hour two, we go national, international, and beyond. In the third hour, we do a deep dive. This must be Uplift Women and Girls Day around here today because Women's History Month is every month at KBLA. We're going to be hearing from Mama Boo and her mentees, the young girls from South LA that always share their thoughts and insights with us. We are doing a Wealth Building Wednesday, so you'll meet an entrepreneur, Black-owned in this case, who will be in support of the Hawthorne Business Expo, which is tomorrow and which I will be hosting. But right now, it's just really exciting. You'll see what I'm talking about. You guys know my friend and colleague. She's a longtime advocate for the underserved, and she's what they call a justice system innovator, one of those people who's bending the will of the system to make it more just. Before her current appointment, she's a retired Superior Court judge. She was the first leader of something called Alternatives to Incarceration, and she is the executive director of the Justice Care and Opportunities Department. Judge Songhai Armstead, welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here, Dominique.
Yeah, it's great to have you in, and she's live in studio, as is my soon-to-be first-time guest. So you can go to youtube.com, KBLA 1580, and actually see us. The next guest that I'm excited to introduce and meet went to Southwestern Law School in Los Angeles with the plan to give back to her community by becoming a public defender and starting a nonprofit organization. While she was in law school, she co-founded a student organization that allows formerly incarcerated students to advocate for themselves, get the resources they need, and impact young people in LA County who are either on probation or in foster care. Ester Mendez, I should say Attorney Ester Mendez, LA County Public Defender. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
Yeah, thanks for coming in. It's the first time I'm meeting you, but I'm reading your bio, and it seems like you have achieved pretty much all of those pretty high bar goals that you set for yourself.
Yes. It really started in community college. When I first went back to school, I felt a little bit different from everybody because of my background. And at the time, I was at Santa Monica Community College, and they had the Homeboys and Homegirls Club. And that was an organization for community college students with a criminal record or who have been formerly incarcerated. And ever since I met them, I've been inspired to be myself, share my story, create spaces for people like me in community colleges. And I hope to one day be able to create more of that as a lawyer too.
Yeah, and we're going to get into what that story is. It's wild, as is yours, Judge, retired Superior Court Judge Armstead, Songhai Armstead. You also were, justice impacted. I always have to get the word right when you're here. Justice impacted, and rose to the bench, which probably not as common as one would hope.
Yes, not as common. Not that common. Kind of the opposite of what happened.
Right. So you were in foster care as a young woman.
I did. I spent some time in foster care. I ran away as a teen. I quit high school.
And running away didn't mean, going down the block and coming right back with your suitcase at that time.
Definitely did not mean that. It meant living in a lot of peculiar places and taking on peculiar work. Yes.
Yeah.
So.
But catapulted from that, and went to law school.
I did.
As a single mom.
Went to law school with a 2-year-old, which is an adventure in and of itself. Let me tell you. And was very unusual. When I went to UCLA to actually be there with the 2-year-old. They weren't really ready for me or the 2-year-old because when he couldn't go to daycare, he came right to school with me. Scooter, toys, whatever and all. I would say that like Esther, I've been blessed along my journey to have a variety of people to step in to reaffirm me, to give me a helping hand, to give me a second, third, fourth chance, to just believe in me, which really opened up so many doors. And actually people who spoke life into me that I didn't see in myself, So none of my journey, like she had a plan, I had no plan. I was just like, let me just show up and see what happens. So it's very different.
But at your probably most challenging or bottom moment, did you ever imagine you would be a judge?
I didn't imagine I would even be alive. Let's just be, if I'm going to have to be completely honest, I didn't think I was going to make it. So there were days that I didn't think I would make it to the next day. And so to be in this space, I'm super, super grateful. But because of that, I do feel an obligation to try to help others. You know what I mean? I almost feel like I won't say a burden, but I feel like it's a heavy requirement and a heavy weight to make sure that I'm able to help others.
I mean, the saying is to whom much is given, but even if it's to whom much is fought and scratched for,
I have a sign.
Much is required.
I have a sign in my office that says God never gives you more than you can handle. And he says apparently he thinks I'm a superhero.
Yeah. So before we connect the dots of how you two met, Esther, tell me how you got caught up in the justice system or impacted.
Yeah, so on my way over here, I was feeling very nostalgic. I grew up about maybe 3 to 4 minutes away from here driving, and there was a lot of trauma that I had to overcome in my personal life. I want to shorten it because I know we only have a little bit of time, but
we got some time.
In a nutshell, I didn't get to graduate my middle school. I didn't get to walk stage for middle school because I got in a middle school fight. So I had to go to court for that. The judge in that situation did not want to do anything with that. They were just like, go back to school. But when I went back to school, it was in Audubon Middle School. Wow. Whoever was in charge of that incident at school was like, well, we want to teach her a lesson. And the lesson is going to be that she cannot participate in her graduation celebration. So I wasn't able to walk stage.
Wow.
So then I went to Dorsey High School. And when I got to Dorsey High School, I was battling with mental health issues and substance use disorder since I was 15 years old. Yeah. And so by the time it was time to graduate, I didn't have enough credits to graduate. So I had to finish my education in adult school. And I finished that about several months after the original graduation date. I turned in my packet and they gave me my high school diploma, and I didn't get to walk stage there either. So I gave up in school. I tried to work and, work at restaurants as a security guard, as a housekeeper for many years. And in the midst of all of that, I still had an unaddressed mental health issue going on. So I ended up struggling. I ended up being homeless around here. I asked for change in front of liquor stores when it got really bad, and went through more traumatic events because I was trying to survive without a home. So eventually I ended up being in trouble with the law when I was 18 years old. I represented myself in that case because I just did not know how to trust anyone. I was so traumatized from a lot of things that I didn't know how to trust another person with my case. So I represented myself in
At
that
18.
case at 18 years old.
Okay.
Our stories are so much of a mirror.
Yeah.
I quit high school at 15. I never walked until college. I never graduated from anything, not preschool, junior high, elementary, junior high, high school, anything
And it sounds
that.
like, and hearing both of you, who are both attorneys right
Yeah.
now, that seems like a really big deal still.
Yes.
It's traumatic.
Yes. And I forgot where I left off.
No, you were talking about 18 because I also was arrested 3 days after my 18th birthday,
Oh.
and I represented myself in court. Go ahead, continue.
And so I represented myself too. And I was able to get a diversion situation for that case. I did some community service hours, got that case dismissed. But I still had that mental health issue going on. So I got in trouble with the law 2 more times after that. And by the time I showed up to Judge Songhai's courtroom, that's when I was willing to.
So this is where their paths cross.
Yeah.
Ms. Mendez shows up to Judge Armstead's courtroom, and we're going to find out what happened next when we come forward. What a story. KBLA Talk 1580.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
Can your pad absorb everything and stay fresh? Always Radiant with Flex Foam can. Get up to 0 leaks, 0 odor, and 0 feel. Because Flex Foam is the only pad with a flexible foam core. You heard me, foam. Always Radiant is so thin, it feels like nothing, yet protects like nothing else. Can your pad do that? For up to 100% leak-free protection, try Always Radiant to see what Flex Foam can do for you.
Ready to order?
Yes. We're earning unlimited 3% cash back on dining and entertainment with a Capital One Saver card, so let's just get one of everything.
Everything?
Fire everything. The Capital One Saver card is at table 27, and they're earning unlimited 3% cash back.
Yes, Chef! This is so nice.
Had a feeling you'd want 3% cash back on dessert.
Ooh, tiramisu.
Earn unlimited 3% cash back on dining and entertainment with the Capital One Saver card. Capital One, what's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com for details.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. LA County's new Justice Care and Opportunities Department, or JCOD, is here to support justice-involved individuals and their families. The JCOD Support Center is now taking calls at 1-833-LACJCOD. That's 1-833-522-5263. Available 7 days a week from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m., the Support Center is your one-stop shop for re-entry issues and court support. They offer court reminders, connections to local services, transportation assistance for housing, court appearances, and childcare. The JCOD hotline provides personalized help to connect you with services that you need. And don't forget to check out justiceconnect.org for more information. Remember, it's free and available every day at 1-833-522-5263. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
This is a story of the one. As a maintenance specialist for university housing, he knows college students can major in wear and tear. Plus, housing so many students doesn't leave a lot of room to house all the supplies he needs. That's where Grainger comes in. With over 1 million industrial-grade products and fast, dependable delivery, Grainger carries the quality products he needs so he doesn't have to. From a new door hinge to a whole new faucet. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Our daughter Jessie loves playing detective.
A clue.
But since we discovered she has sensitive skin, we've been playing detective too.
We thought the problem was our puppy.
But it was actually our old detergent.
Aha!
So we switched to Tide Free and Gentle. Tide Free and Gentle provides an excellent Tide clean, and it doesn't leave behind irritating residues like dyes or perfumes, so it's gentle on your skin.
Case closed.
If it's got to be clean, it's got to be Tide Free and Gentle.
Attorney advertising. Prior results do not guarantee future outcomes.
Founded in Los Angeles in 1986, litigation powerhouse Quinn Emanuel has deep roots in the Los Angeles community. Since 2007, we have litigated some of the largest fires on the West Coast. We are proud to be the only AmLaw 100 firm in the country to represent wildfire victims, giving affected individuals, families, and businesses the same focus and individualized attention we devote to our Fortune 500 clients. BTI Consulting has repeatedly recognized Quinn Emanuel as among the 4 law firms in-house counsel least liked to oppose in any litigation, and we are often deemed the most feared. And after securing over $80 billion for our clients in various matters firm-wide, we understand why. If you have been affected by the recent wildfires in Altadena and the Palisades and would like to discuss your situation further, please contact wildfire support at QuinnEmanuel.com or call us at 213-443-3050. Quinn Emanuel is proud to sponsor Conversation Live Altadena Rising with James Farr on KBLA Talk 1580.
Attorney advertising. Prior results do not guarantee future outcomes.
At the tone, please record your message.
You ready?
Drop it!
Mr. Tavis Smiley, preach it. Thank you, man. Politics in this country is crazy. You put things in perspective that even I didn't. The right is playing fast and loose with facts and scapegoating everyone under the sun, especially black and brown people. As a white man, I do not agree with this, and I am on my black and brown brothers and sisters' side. Fight the good fight. Know that I am part of the resistance. Let's fight the power.
Our freedom of speech is freedom of death. We got to fight the powers that be.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black. Your ancestors' favorite radio station, and your favorite morning show host. Let's get back to Dominique DiPrima right now.
Right now, you know the T-shirts that say, I am my ancestors' wildest dreams. I am sitting in the studio with 2 women that represent that, who may have started out not being their ancestors' wildest dreams, as we find out. Ester Mendez, who's now an attorney and a public defender, and Judge Songhai Armstead both represented themselves at 18 when they were having little run-ins with the law, and which you, Judge, said that's probably not recommended.
Yes, I strongly recommend against it, and that folks probably shouldn't represent themselves only in the rarest of circumstances.
But in the case of both of you guys, it may have been a sign of talent in the legal world. But, you said apparently the judge didn't see it that way.
No. So I think I'm dyslexic. I'm comfortable saying it now. So I'm dyslexic, and you have to fill out a pro per form before you represent yourself. And I was going through it, and I clearly didn't understand everything that it was saying, and it wasn't made to be friendly. You know what I mean? It's kind of made to be a deterrent. And I'm answering and signing or whatever, and he receives it, and he was like, you don't even know how to fill out the form. How can you represent yourself? Can you read? Out but in public court.
Right, humiliating you in front of the whole
me in
court.
front of everyone. And so, and I already, had a lot of instability and trauma, as Esther referred to earlier, and I was completely humiliated. And I just said, well, actually, I struggle. I'm dyslexic, and he just looked at me. I'm not sure if he really knew what dyslexia was, nor anyone else, but they were like, okay, so yes, you can't read, And so, and he basically tried to deter me from representing myself, but I didn't like what the public defender that I had assigned to me at the time was telling me I needed to do, so I just felt like I couldn't get worse from that.
It's a last resort tactic, Esther, yes. Sounds like. So you end up, this, I guess, 3rd or 4th situation that you're in, you end up in Judge Armstead's courtroom.
Yes.
And what happens?
Yes. So I end up in her courtroom, and I had already tried treatment programs in the past, and I went against my lawyer's advice at the time. He was like, don't talk to the judge. Like, I got it. I'll take care of it. And really what I was afraid of is going to county jail, because I had already gone to county jail before. I went to county jail on my 2nd case.
Scary place.
Yes, there's a lot of people that, because of their circumstances, have become hardened, and they have a way of communicating that comes from trauma. So sometimes violence can come from that. And so I experienced that while I was incarcerated. I was also offered drugs when I was in there on my first day.
Wow.
And when I said no, people started looking at me different. I kind of looked a little bit like an outsider, you can say, because I don't really have, like the main reason I was in there was because I was drinking and driving. So I wasn't necessarily somebody that was fighting all the time or like had things like that going on in my life. It was more like, okay, I was drinking and driving and I ended up in there. And I do want to say that, you know, now that I'm in this part of my life with 8 years of sobriety, I acknowledge that drinking and driving is very harmful to the community.
No doubt, and congrats on 8 years.
Yes. Thank you.
That's a real,
thank you,
a real
Thank
big
you.
achievement.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So you're going against the advice of your lawyer. You're talking to this person who
Yes.
happens to be Judge Songhai Armstead, but you didn't have any idea it was just Judge.
Yes, it was just Judge. I didn't know anything about Judge Songhai Armstead at the time. So I was in the courtroom and I asked her for an opportunity to be on house arrest so I could go to my treatment programs and go to community college that I had signed up for. And I brought proof of enrollment to both of those programs and school. And she basically granted my request, and I was able to go to community college while on house arrest. And I got my community college professor to sign a sheet to prove that I was actually in school. And I completed that treatment program, and that was the first time I got to walk a graduation stage, not necessarily a school graduation stage, but a treatment program graduation stage since elementary school. And it was very healing for me and my family because I hadn't done that since elementary school up to that point.
When Esther came into your courtroom, Judge Armstead, what did you see?
I'm going to speak generally, okay? There are, and I'm going to speak generally, and I hope Esther doesn't find offense to this, because I want us to see people as a whole. You know what I mean? So I think every time we see a person before us in court, we have to look at the individual and not necessarily at the circumstances that brought the individual before us. And I don't know if you agree in your role now. But there are people that come before us in court. There are people that end up in the justice system that, as you stated, who due to trauma, due to circumstances, they find themselves at their lowest, and they find themselves outside of who they are normally, you know what I mean, or who they aspire to be. And I think, like Esther, I saw someone who wanted to really try. And sometimes you're taking a risk because you don't know, you know what I mean, because they've had cases in the past, but we can't just say, oh, they've had cases in the past. We have to say this person wants to try.
You can't say you just get this many chances.
You can't say you just get this many chances, because sometimes it's the third chance, sometimes it's the 12th chance. And the reality is, for all of us, none of us are caught on every one of our bad days. You know what I mean? Right? We're just not. And I know that the people who are able to escape the justice system sometimes can feel, you know, mighty, you know, oh, I've never such and such. But it's just because you weren't caught on your worst day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so,
no doubt.
And I think people forget those moments. And so I would say, with a person like Esther, who seemed incredibly sincere, there are a lot of people who seem incredibly sincere, no offense, but they seem incredibly sincere, but she was actually taking steps, and it was not, and so I think it's important that we give a person opportunity to show, like, I can take these steps, and then support them as they continue to take those steps so that they can accomplish the thing that they want to accomplish. I think one of the things that happens in our justice system sometimes is that we continually speak death, or we speak failure into people's lives. And it takes a tremendous amount of strength to get up and continue to go forward, right? And so in her original situations, in my original situation, I had people who were making fun of me in court who were in power. You know what I mean? I had people telling me, well, you can't do this and you can't do that. And I think in Esther's case, I'm like, you absolutely can, but it's like, do you want to? And how hard are you going to try to go and get this? You know what I mean? And
yeah, because I want to interject here as your friend that although Judge Armstead is very committed to alternatives to incarceration, leads the Justice Care and Opportunity Department, she also happens to be one of the more skeptical people I know. Like, you're just not going to come and tell her it's a tall tale, and you're going to, she'll be like, oh, okay.
No, that is not me.
That is not
That's just like, that is not her.
at all.
Never.
I always say, boy, your kids have it rough.
Oh, they do. They will definitely tell you.
They're going to get cross-examined.
Yeah. My eldest always is upset that I was trained by the FBI. I was like, I see your micro trigger right there. You're lying to me. He was like, this is not fair.
So, did you see any of yourself in Esther?
I didn't know all of Esther's story. So I would say I did not. I've learned more about Esther in her law school journey than I knew about her when she was before me in court. What I knew about Esther is that she had mandatory jail time that was hanging over her head. And she was like, I don't want to go back to jail. I want to try to do something different. And so I gave her day for day credit that she was on house arrest for her jail time to be able to do the things that she needed to do. And I think for her, and I don't know if this is true or not, I think for her, some of that accountability might have helped support her as she was doing the thing that she was committed to do. Sometimes a lesser alternative with structure is the thing that helps a person until they're able to continue that journey on themselves. And I don't know if that's true for her. She can answer that question or not. But I know people struggle sometimes and say, well, just let them out. They didn't want to do it. It was a mistake, whatever. And sometimes I think encouraging a person to go back to school, to go through a training program, to be in recovery, I think helps.
It's almost like an accountability partner. We all need that.
Yeah, I mean, what I can say is that I was in there because I had violated the law. But many times when people come into court, they're only seen as somebody who has committed a crime and not somebody who has been a victim of a crime. Yeah. And I have been a victim of a crime so many times that I lost count. So by the time I showed up to court, I needed an opportunity to address those needs, because the reason I was drinking, right, and doing things that I'm not proud of is because that was the way that I was coping with the mental health issues, the trauma, the violence that had been done on me that I never went to court for. So for me, the reason I'm working in criminal defense is because it's so important to humanize every single person that goes into that courtroom. And I also want to say is that not everybody needs to be held accountable, because some people are being accused of things they did not commit, right?
Let's hold that thought. Yeah, we'll go
That's
deeper
very
into
true.
that.
That's
Very
very
interesting
true. Yeah.
observation when we come forward after news, traffic, and sports, only right here.
More of First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
I'm Bree Wood with 4 Things You Should Know with BIN News. Black Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson formed a working group to address the city's budget gap, facing billion-dollar deficits due to rising costs. The city's financial situation may worsen if federal aid is cut. President Trump says undocumented immigrants should be deported without trials, claiming countries like Venezuela and Congo sent prisoners to the U.S. The Supreme Court paused deportations of accused Venezuelan gang members for due process. Trump spoke to reporters in the Oval Office on Tuesday. Stocks rallied yesterday, with the Dow gaining over 1,000 points on reports of a tariff de-escalation with China. Major averages surged over 2%, erasing Monday's losses. And Kendrick Lamar is Chanel's new brand ambassador for their Spring 2025 eyewear campaign that launched yesterday. Lamar said Chanel has a timeless legacy, and that's something he can always get behind. Get BIN News on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Experience adventure at Palm Springs Aerial Tramway. Ride the world's largest rotating tram car. Explore over 50 miles of scenic trails in pristine wilderness. Dine at 8,500 feet with awe-inspiring views and get that perfect souvenir. Adventure at its peak. Learn more at pstramway.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Lakers got it done last night, and they flexed their muscles in the process. In a very physical game at Crypto.com, 46 fouls were called. The Lakers beat up Minnesota 94-85 to even up their first-round series at a game apiece. Another strong performance for Luka Doncic, 31 points, 12 rebounds, and 9 assists. LeBron finished with 21 points. The Lakers were perfect from the free throw line, making all 20 of their attempts. A major factor in the Lakers' win was their perimeter defense. In Game 1, Minnesota made 21 three-pointers. They made only 5 of 25 last night. On nearly every attempt, a Lakers defender had a hand in their face at the three-point line. The next 2 games are in Minneapolis. Game 3 is Friday night. Let's see if the Lakers can maintain this newfound defensive intensity. Game 3 for the Clippers in Denver is Thursday night at the Intuit Dome in Inglewood. no debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
You really about to do it? 40 acres in the mule. This is bigger than the music. You really about to do it? Yeah, they tried to rig the game, but you can't fake influence.
Who among us doesn't like black music? But Kendrick is right. This moment is so much bigger than music. These are serious times. We've got serious problems, and we need serious people who understand that slogans are not solutions. When you want substantial and sober analysis about things that matter to you and the ones you love, this is where you turn. We're KBLA Talk 1580, and we've got your black.
Hi, I'm Joe Montaigne. Let's talk about veteran homelessness, because it's not just a housing issue, it's a human issue. Right now, we need LA property owners to open their doors and give veterans a safe place to call home. With guaranteed rent and dedicated support, you can be part of the solution. Learn how you can help. Email houseourvets@lacity.org.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Zoe Williams, a.k.a. the Voice of Reason, encouraging you to join me weekdays from 7 to 9 p.m. for the world's most intriguing relationship radio roundtable. Every night, I facilitate and encourage our loyal listeners to participate in the most engaging relationship discussions you'll hear anywhere. So make it a point to rendezvous with me, Zoe Williams, the Voice of Reason, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Trust me, your relationships will never be the same. The VOR is on fire tonight.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
Attorney advertising. Prior results do not guarantee future outcomes.
Founded in Los Angeles in 1986, litigation powerhouse Quinn Emanuel has deep roots in the Los Angeles community. Since 2007, we have litigated some of the largest fires on the West Coast. We are proud to be the only AmLaw 100 firm in the country to represent wildfire victims, giving affected individuals, families, and businesses the same focus and individualized attention we devote to our Fortune 500 clients. BTI Consulting has repeatedly recognized Quinn Emanuel as among the 4 law firms in-house counsel least like to oppose in any litigation, and we are often deemed the most feared. And after securing over $80 billion for our clients in various matters firm-wide, we understand why. If you have been affected by the recent wildfires in Altadena and the Palisades and would like to discuss your situation further, please contact wildfire support at QuinnEmanuel.com or call us at 213-443-3050. Quinn Emanuel is proud to sponsor Conversation Live Altadena Rising with James Farr on KBLA Talk 1580.
Attorney advertising. Prior results do not guarantee future outcomes.
Thanks for waking up with Dominique DiPrima on KBLA Talk 1580.
I wish and join this very interesting conversation. I'm talking with Ester Mendez, who is a public defender, a lawyer, and retired judge now, head of the Justice Care and Opportunities Department, Judge Songhai Armstead. We're talking about Esther's journey to passing the bar and becoming a public defender, and the road to that success led through the courtroom of Judge Songhai Armstead. Both represented themselves at 18. At some point, your path, Judge Armstead, led through another judge's court, and somehow both of you ended up as attorneys and role models for other women who benefited from either other people's ability to see more in you than you maybe even saw in yourself, or what we call alternatives to incarceration, what we call care first, which is something LA is big on, and I hope we stay committed to. And this case, the way that Esther came to your courtroom and then was able to go to school while on house arrest and prove herself by sticking to a plan that she created, that's kind of a classic alternatives to incarceration scenario, isn't it?
100%. She was determined. She has amazing resolve and drive and probably faith. You know what I mean?
And she got a chance. I mean,
yeah.
And you said it when we were off the mic, Esther, that, this is part of what we need to look at we don't just keep people going back to jail, back to prison, and back in the system. I mean, even if you're not a big fan of Care First, or you're not a progressive, everyone's got to be a fan of let's not have more and more and more people in jail and prison.
Yeah, so I just first want to clarify, I'm not speaking on behalf of the Public Defender's Office. I'm speaking on behalf of myself and my personal experience. Yeah. And for me, I had relapsed, right? And I had other mental health issues that occurred. PTSD, trauma came out again. And so I tried to get well again on my own, and it wasn't working. It wasn't working. And so by the time I got to Judge Songhai Armstead courtroom, I basically asked her for the opportunity to have access to these resources because, like I had already stated, I had experienced being incarcerated, right. And it was not a rehabilitative place. I do acknowledge that there were meetings that were happening there, but you still had to put your name on the list and be on a wait list if you were too late. So even if you signed up for those group meetings, you might not be able to get in. But there was no case management, right? So that's what JCOT does. It connects people to resources that have case management, opportunities where people are able to address their needs in a personal level. Because every person has a different life experience. We are all human beings and experience trauma, but we all experience trauma for different reasons, and therefore we have different unique needs. Yeah. So programs like JCOD give people the opportunity who have committed a crime and are willing to be accountable to that. Right. And But
you said right before News, Traffic, and Sports, there are also people that don't need to be accountable because they're falsely accused. Right. So that's a really interesting paradigm. You said earlier, I don't know if it was on or off the mic, that you know what trauma looks like. You know what trauma looks like. So this is a question for both of you. How does the fact that you come out of a traumatic childhood backgrounds, which many people would write you off and say you're going to be a statistic, how does that inform your work now?
Wow, that's a really interesting question. And I got emotional for a second. I don't know what just happened. But anyway, I think that, it's funny. I wouldn't wish experiences on anyone, but I don't regret any of my experiences. I think all of my experiences have led me to the person that I am and to see the things that I saw. One of the things that I actually enjoyed in court is that I could look at people and I would know exactly what they're going through or exactly what they've experienced or exactly what they're thinking about doing next. Or, I had, gang diversion programs, I had mental health diversion programs, and I had other, and as I sat as a judge, and I would look at those things and, and I would talk to some of the people and they would tell me where they were. And I'm like, I know that corner. I know what was happening really there. And I know that you shouldn't be there. And they were looking like, oh man, how does she know? You know what I mean? And I think some of those lived experience helped inform the way that I looked at my cases. It helped inform the way I spoke to people. Yeah. I spoke to folks like I speak to you and Esther off the record. You know what I mean? Just very directly, like, this is what I think. This is what I expect you to do. You can do it. But if you don't, there's consequences. You know what I mean? And so, and there were times when I questioned why the person was before me in the first place. So,
to be clear, you are a prosecutor.
I am a person who loves everyone who's worked as a prosecutor. Yes, I have been.
And you're a public defender now. So yes. how does that trauma that you've walked through in your life, what does it teach you about your job?
I believe that because I have lived life experience, I am able to get people to open up to me more, and I am able to gain people's trust a lot more easily than other people. And because of that, I feel like I carry a great sense of responsibility for a human being to be open with another. And there's this balance that I need to, I don't want to project what I'm going through or what I have been through onto another person. But what it does for me is it opens my heart and it makes me a very compassionate lawyer. But it also makes me a really good listener. So I have to listen to everything that they're saying and then make a legal analysis, but also use my lived life experience to see what is the truth.
Can I just speak to her as her mentor friend? Be careful as you do this journey. And I'm just going to say, because you're beginning, and this is things that I struggle with, is that sometimes I relive my own trauma helping other people. And so there's this vicarious trauma that you deal because I'm an empath, and I know you are too. And you start absorbing all the things that are happening, and it's really hard to like like let it go at the end of the day.
I can see that. Yes. You're getting love in the chat. Norma Martinez Barrett says, congrats, Esther and Judge. And Kwamel Allah says, accountability doesn't mean punishment. It means taking responsibility and taking charge of your direction. And I love that so much. So what happens? Okay, so you go to community college, and then tell me about the journey.
Yeah, so at my last year at UC Irvine, like I said, I wasn't considering law school because I had a criminal record, and I was under the impression that if you're a lawyer, you need to make sure you have a clean criminal record. So I found out that he was in prison for 6 years, and he was in law school, and he invited me to his criminal law class, and I sat in there, and I was asking a bunch of questions. I think people probably thought I was annoying, but I was so intrigued because what I was learning I thought was unfair. I was like, that doesn't sound like a fair law. And what I learned in law school is that what makes a law racist is if the language itself is racist. They kind of ignore the impact that it makes. Yes, and it's really hard to prove that a law is racist if there are no racist terms written in the law. So that was something that I battled with and wanted to study on my own. I wanted to understand, why is that allowed? And I did learn that in constitutional law, which was very eye-opening for me. And so now as a lawyer, I'm trying to see if one day I can use this experience to be able to change the law in a way that is more fair. Yeah. Because if you look at the prison population right now, what do you see?
Yeah.
Black and brown people.
People that look like the people in this room.
100%.
Yeah. So when Esther graduated from law school,
I was there.
You guys reconnected. When did
we reconnected while she was in law school? She found me. I didn't find her. She found me, and we're reintroduced. And I took her to lunch, and we started talking and sharing. And I took her to an event where you.
How did you feel seeing this person that you had seen in your courtroom now in law school, now graduating actually in law school?
Well, I was kind of overwhelmed when she told me that she was in law school and invited me to her graduation. I was super proud of her. I was super, super excited for her. And then she she also shared with me how long she had been on her journey for, she'd been eight years. Well, not quite 8 years then, but that she's been clean and sober. And I was just excited. Like, I've watched, in my professional life and in my personal life, I've watched the journey of so many people, and I know it's not an easy one. But she was doing really, 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 really well. And that made me feel like it's a win. And she's a testament to why, well, this is Second Chance Month, so I'm going to just plug that in here, but she's a testament to why second chances are so important, why we don't write folks off, because they can become phenomenal. And
even though you said off the air that some people don't deserve to be in a program like that.
I said not everyone.
Not
deserves,
everyone. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, you were using an example of some scary people that have been in your courtroom.
Yeah. Yeah. And in my life. So there
and in your life. Right.
So,
right.
Yeah.
How did you feel seeing the judge at your graduation?
Honestly, I felt very honored to have her there. If it weren't for you and giving me the opportunity, I can't guarantee that I would have been here right now. I really needed somebody to understand what I needed, and she understood that. I don't know what would have happened if I would have gone to county jail and not gone to those mental health programs, and what would have happened if I couldn't show up to my community college class. I probably would have gotten kicked out of the class for not being there, and that would have been very discouraging for me. And I don't know if I would have had the same kind of motivation that I did when I went to that treatment program and was able to graduate and come out of that community college, graduating, going to UC Irvine and becoming a lawyer. So thank you so much.
I'm going to cry. But I think that sometimes, and I tell this to my team actually at JCOT as well, we don't understand how one decision actually can impact so many other decisions. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, in our justice system, we see so many people in so many cases at any given moment. And we're making very quick decisions, very, very quick decisions. And we don't have time to fully engage in explore and know all the things that she shared with you. Like we've spent more time already than spent on a case in a courtroom. Like, no, seriously, it's it's very, very quick. And trial, and even those moments are very, very quick. And then you see so many, and so the thing that becomes really hard, and I remember some of my colleagues, some of the best people I know would have some of the most egregious cases. And I'm like, how are you able to even, like, how are you okay? Like, this is really, really hard, because they become numb. Because the same thing I'm telling her to be careful about, like, you carry all this trauma, this vicarious trauma, you relive your own trauma. It becomes, and the only way you can survive sometimes is just to become numb. And when you become numb, you forget that there's a person on the other side of that case. Yeah.
Well, I just want to do a little math, which is not my forte, but we think about either one of you guys. You were in the foster care system. You ended up in court, judge representing yourself at 8, attorney Mendez,
18, not 8.
18. Yeah. You could have done it at 8.
Could have done it at 8.
Yes. 18. and attorney Mendez, same thing with you. If either one of you had been one decision the other way
Butterfly.
And had ended up inside the justice system, I'm talking to my conservative friends right now, imagine the cost to the taxpayer, right? And that's not a very sentimental way of looking at it, but imagine the cost to the taxpayer. Instead, we got a Superior Court judge who's now leading a department, a model for the entire country in changing the way we approach rehabilitation and reentry and justice-impacted folks, and a public defender who is providing trauma and care, automatically trauma-informed representation. And so to me, this is an illustration not just of a personal journey of sisterhood of two women whose paths crossed in a very fortuitous way, but it's an example of why alternatives to incarceration, trauma-informed care, mental health services, all the things we are embracing in LA County are cost-effective for taxpayers, even if you don't give a rat's behind about the human beings in the story.
And just the global impact of folks that change their lives. I mean, when you think about all the nonprofits that we work with that actually do the work, or who the recovery program that she's in, or the support she got when she was in junior college, or the group that she was in law school, the group she was in at UC Irvine, these are all people with lived experience. Throughout, there's people trickled throughout that helped her along her journey as well, and even in my own journey. And so I'm just thinking about the butterfly effect, like one of us out of that scenario could change the whole scenario. And so I think, and then more of us in the scenario could actually
visit forgivingforliving.org today. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
For all of us, this generation and the next, there is simply no place in our lives for litter. And yet, it's everywhere we look. And unfortunately, it does belong to all of us. So, let's come together and create a litter-free, clean California, once and for all. Remember to properly dispose of your trash and recycling. Secure truckloads with tarps to keep debris from flying out. Clean out your car when you're at a gas station. Take pride in your community by organizing a cleanup event. Or join a cleanup event near you. Zero litter is the goal. Join us at cleanca.com. That's cleanca.com. Let's do it together. Brought to you by Caltrans. cleanca.com.
We knew you'd stick around. This is LA's home for progressive talk radio. Welcome back to KBLA Talk 1580.
Thank you, Jashandra Gibbs, saying that your story is inspiring. Reach one, teach one, each one, teach one. Ester Mendez is a public defender. She's here with me. Judge Songhai Armstead here with me, and their paths have crossed in a way that is really inspiring. And thank you guys for giving us some good news in tough times when we need to hear about things we can each do and successes that are happening in our community. You ended up swearing Esther in. Tell me about that. You called it a God moment.
Well, I mean, even every time we speak, we find out we have so many similarities in our stories. Like, I mean, just you've heard several of them on this message today. But at her swearing in, by the way, I was so honored and I was so privileged to be able to swear her in. it was she had so much support, which just lets you know that people are really cheering her on 100%, which was amazing.
Yay.
But the courtroom, she asked a judge where she was assigned previously in the courthouse if she could use it for her swearing in. That judge is the judge who took my seat when I stepped down from the bench.
Wow.
And that judge and I have connected a number of times because one of the things that was important to me is that I wanted someone like me to take my seat. And I said that to the appointment secretary at the governor's office, and she is someone like me who took my seat.
A Black woman.
Yes.
Just to be clear. Okay. I mean, and that's the other thing, the interconnectedness. I mean, you were broadcasting live from Leimert Park, Africatown, USA, and you grew up right around here. And I think many times when we're being theoretical, we separate African-American and Latino communities like
both of our families.
Right. And you guys have that interconnectedness, but even just your journey together, is an example of how we do touch each other in our communities.
Yes, and I also want to speak on my indigenous roots.
Yes.
I am Latina woman, but also am from the Zapotec civilization that existed right next to the Aztecs. And so my grandma, she still speaks Zapoteco.
Wow.
And I know a little bit of Zapoteco. And growing up, I have been othered by my own Latinx community because of my indigenous roots. So historically speaking, there has been a lot of discrimination between the African American community and indigenous people in the United States. So it's not surprising that I grew up experiencing that. So when I met my husband, we both shared our experiences of what it's like to be discriminated. He talked about his experience as an African American man and how he dealt with growing up in a society where he was discriminated, and I shared with him what it was like for me as an indigenous woman to experience something very similar. Different in some ways, but still very similar. Yes.
Well, the hour flies by, especially when we're hearing something inspiring that we need to hear. I guess I want to make sure we talk about JCOD because, the story is somehow connected to that. And tell people, one of the things that we have a PSA that runs here, letting people know about the hotline and some of the things that they can access if they have justice impacted persons in their family that they hope will end up like Esther or I should say Attorney Mendez or Judge Armstead.
Yes. So I just want to say once again, this is Second Chance Month. We have a number of activities that are happening this month. Matter of fact, this afternoon, I'll be at Cal State LA. They'll have a graduation and a ceremony for a number of folks that are also justice impacted who are attending school there as well. And so we'll be there today from 12 to 6. We have a fire training program. Right now we have the first all-female cohort, which is phenomenal in our Calabasas, where they receive housing and training and stipends and supports there, who come from a number of backgrounds, and many of them were formerly incarcerated firefighters. But we'll have an open house there on Monday. If anyone is interested, they can go to our website or go to info@ jcod.lacounty.gov if they want to RSVP. It starts at 9 a.m. It's from 9 to noon, and there'll be lunch, and they'll have some demonstrations, and it will just be a wonderful, wonderful day. We have another number of other events that are on our website, but I want people to know we do have a call center that they can call 7 days a week from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m., and that is at 1-833-522-5263. Anyone can call. We connect them to housing, workforce development, clothing. I've had people contact me on Instagram who just got out of prison and are like, yo, Judge, I need help. And I'm like, call the hotline, and they will pick them up and take them to housing, help them get clothes, help connect them to workforce development. We're on all the social media sites, which is at LACJCOD. And so they can follow us, they can message us, and we will engage with people and help them where they are. But like Esther, if you want help, we will provide help. We can't force a person to do anything, but if you want help, we will provide all the help we can. Take them to court, take them to probation, take them to parole, plug them into services.
Yeah, Justice, Care, and Opportunities Department. Almost out of time here, Esther. What do you want to leave us with? And congratulations, by the way.
Thank you. I just want to say, if you're somebody who has lost hope and are in need of these services and you have tried it before, don't give up on yourself. Try again, because I honestly did not know if I was going to be able to succeed in that program. I had tried about 4 programs before that one. And what I did differently is that I started focusing on the people that were willing to invest in me and people that were willing to pour in love and compassion and help me recognize my worth. And so I held on to those relationships very tight.
Well said.
So I would highly recommend that. Find your community, find your network and your foundation.
Well, Attorney Mendez and Judge Armstead, thank you so much for joining me this morning. What a great way to start our day.
Thank you for having us.
News, traffic, and sports, and then more on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with 4 Things You Should Know with BIN News. Black Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson formed a working group to address the city's budget gap facing billion-dollar deficits due to rising costs. The city's financial situation may worsen if federal aid is cut. President Trump says undocumented immigrants should be deported without trials, claiming countries like Venezuela and Congo sent prisoners to the U.S. The Supreme Court paused deportations of accused Venezuelan gang members for due process. Trump spoke to reporters in the Oval Office on Tuesday. Stocks rallied yesterday with the Dow gaining over 1,000 points on reports of a tariff de-escalation with China. Major averages surged over 2%, erasing Monday's losses. And Kendrick Lamar is Chanel's new brand ambassador for their Spring 2025 eyewear campaign that launched yesterday. Lamar said Chanel has a timeless legacy, and that's something he can always get behind. Get BIN News on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Experience adventure at Palm Springs Aerial Tramway. Ride the world's largest rotating tram car. Explore over 50 miles of scenic trails in pristine wilderness. Dine at 8,500 feet with awe and...
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Lakers got it done last night, and they flexed their muscle.